How's it going, fam? Welcome back to Erica's EDC, and today we are doing a double review of the Scrawny Lumberjack Splinter. This one is in 1095, this one is in 10V. We tested them side by side for a month consecutively, and today we are doing the in-depth review of this knife. This is one of the best EDC fixed blades I've ever used. We're gonna get into why I believe that is, and hopefully you guys will maybe pick one up from Kyle. He's an awesome maker. Let's get into it. So, for a month, I ran these knives next to each other. I did everything with them. I did not carry anything else other than these two knives, and I really put them through the paces. Now, you guys know I'm a huge fan of super steel. I have generally moved away from simple carbon steels and just simple kind of budget steels in general, because I think with the evolution of knife making and metallurgy and all of that, a lot of these steels have kind of fallen by the wayside, for me at least, in my use. I think that for the money, you can get super steels with properties that are 10 times better. They will outperform these any day, and I just haven't really seen a need for these, I guess, anymore. But I wanted to test them side by side because I've never used custom done 1095. I have actually never really used any simple carbon steels that have been like custom heat treated and pushed to the limits. So Kyle and I thought it would be cool to make two identical knives, one in super steel, one in simple carbon steel, put them to the max HRC, the max BTE that you can get, and I wanted to see if one outperformed the other. I think you're going to be really surprised with the results. So this one is in 10V blade steel, 65 HRC, 5 thou BTE, and I believe it's 18 degrees per side with a 3/32 blade stock thickness, okay? This one is in 1095. Same BTE, so 5 thou. It's 18 degrees per side, 3/32 blade stock. It's all the same, okay? This one is 62 HRC because depending on the steel, you cannot heat treat everything to the same hardness and get the maximum results, right? Like the maximum hardness that we could bring the 1095 to feasibly was 62, because any higher and it's just gonna break, basically. So the only difference between these two knives are the handle materials, obviously, and then the HRC. So we've got 65 for the 10V, because that was what made the most sense, and we pushed this to 62. That's what made the most sense. The only other difference is we have jimping on this one because he forgot to put it on this one. But they're the same knife, okay? We tested these together, and it was very interesting using these two side by side, because logically speaking, you would think that the 10V would outperform the 1095, and it actually didn't. Now, there are so many factors to this. This is also subjective. It's not scientific, right? But I used these the same exact amount. I did the same tasks with both of them, and the 1095 did not dull faster than the 10V, which is pretty crazy. I did not sharpen either of these. They've never been sharpened. I stropped both of them one time on the same 5 micron or 0.5 micron strop, but neither of them have been sharpened, okay? And I used them both for a whole month. Sorry about the dog barking. A month of use. Identical. So that was kind of intriguing to me because, like I said, science and logic would tell us that the 10V would outperform the 1095. It didn't. Now, I think if we took these knives into a cutting test like, you know, Pete from Cedric and Ada does, if we did like sisal rope cutting side by side, I would have a hypothesis that the 10V would outcut the 1095 in a test like that. But I'm not a scientific channel. I don't really do that type of testing, at least not yet. I don't have the editing capabilities to do that type of thing. We did real-world testing, cutting tons of cardboard, plastic packaging, tape, zip ties, lots of waxed thread for the leather work. We processed dog food with these 2 knives, so like meat and organs and stuff like that. My dogs eat a raw food diet. Human food, okay, on a plastic cutting board, on a wooden cutting board. Lots of processing on the truck bed, hard plastic. Kind of anything that you can think of that an average person living in the countryside would do, I did with both of these knives, okay? So I guess in a sense it would make sense to you guys, because I don't think a ton of people are sitting in a garage cutting sisal rope for an hour and a half and recording it. You know what I'm saying? Like, those videos are super important. But my point is, we have one super steel, one simple carbon steel, and surprisingly, one did not outperform the other in general everyday tasks, okay? We also did feather sticking with these, which is on the channel under the knife testing footage. We did the ferricium rod striking with these. They both did very, very well. So I guess my first important point of this video would be that they both did exactly the same. With everyday use, they both did exactly the same. They both responded to the strop the same. They're both hair-popping sharp after a month of use, and they're 2 totally different steels. Now, another thing that I want to kind of touch on here is the fact that 1095, from this testing, from my experience, does so much better at a thin geometry, thin BTE, and high hardness. A lot of the 1095 that we see out in the world is 58 to 60 HRC, generally actually 56 to 58 HRC. Very soft, very thick. We're talking 30 thou BTE, really thick blade stock, okay? A lot of the 1095 that we see is overbuilt, way too thick, way too soft, and it does not perform very well, and it tends to lose its edge very quickly and glass out. And the marketing scheme that is presented with 1095 is you can touch it up very easily in the field. This was a breeze to touch up, literally a few passes on a strop, just like the soft and thick stuff, okay? But this edge lasts so much longer, guys, at a higher hardness, thinner geometry, okay? There is no reason from my testing, this is a conclusion that I have come to, there is no reason to run 1095 thick and soft. Zero reason. I did not encounter any warping, any deformation in the edge, and like I said, I have done everything under the sun that you can think of that an average user would do, okay? And I'm talking about actual users, people that use their knives, not pocket jewelry, like someone that actually uses their knives. Not a single ounce of anything with this, okay? There's no reason to run these thick and soft. Also, I did compare this edge retention to very well done Nitro V, okay? That's what this reminded me of, is high hardness Nitro V. I have Nitro V at like 63.5 HRC, really high, and this is what it performed like. So it blew my mind. It changed my opinion about simple carbon steels to a point. I think they have a place as long as they are done properly and priced accordingly, okay? That's the issue, is that we're seeing knives in 1095, they're $80 and they're 56 to 58 HRC and they're 30 thou BTE and they're overbuilt and they don't actually perform very well at all. And the other thing is people say that they're treated like that for toughness. Guys, 1095 is one of the least tough steels that you can get. It's like 4.5 pounds, okay? It's silly. 10V has a better toughness rating. There are simple carbon steels that have good toughness. I think 8670 has like 10 pounds or something like that, okay? But 1095 is not one of them. It has a very, very low ranking for toughness. So that's a complete lie that you have been fed. But I will say, if 1095 is at 62 HRC like this, it is an unbelievable performer. The problem we have is that custom makers are not going to want to make these because it's a waste of their time and money, okay? When they could make knives like these that all around have way better qualities, they're not going to be wasting their time with something like this. It was a very cool experience, but I wouldn't expect these to be popping out from custom makers, okay? Now, the 10V. I don't want to overshadow it with the 1095, right? They performed exactly the same, but obviously, like I said, if we did a scientific test, I can very much guess that this would outcut the 1095. The corrosion resistance on this knife was incredible. That's another thing that you're not going to get from the 1095. This will rust and corrode faster than this. I don't see any pitting, anything on this at all. We have a slight patina from the month of use, some staining, but no pitting, no rusting. Razor sharp still. This knife did incredibly well. I am absolutely blown away with both of these. Kyle did a fantastic job on them. So would I recommend these? Absolutely. Would I recommend both these steels at the hardness they're at with the geometry, etc.? Yes. Do I think we're going to see these? No. Let's talk about the model in general, right? Because this is also a review on the model from Kyle. This is his flagship model, the Splinter. It's a hybrid knife, I would say, and that was one of the most enjoyable aspects of this testing was the actual model itself, not even just the steel, okay? So a little bit of background. Kyle from the Scrawny Lumberjack, he has a background in the Boy Scouts, and he also has a YouTube channel where he used to be very active on it, and he did a lot of side-by-side testing with knives from AA Forge and Adventure Sworn and companies like that that make like really outdoorsy knives, okay? He used to actually do an episode on Sundays that was called Sunday Night Knife Fight, something like that, where he would put knives head to head and do like scientific testing with them and see which one outperformed the other. So Kyle's coming from, I would say, an outdoor background, an outdoor perspective with his knives. He's not doing like fidgety, really thin knives. They're for outdoor use, they're for performance in general. So you can probably see here, the Splinter is a very small knife. It's under 7 inches, but we have the characteristics of a bushcraft knife, specifically in the handle with this Coke bottle shape. That's very prominent in the bushcraft community. It's a really old school design that a lot of people enjoy in terms of ergonomics. So we definitely have the Coke bottle handle, but we also have a knife that is very much formed to the human hand, okay? So when you hold this, it literally melts into the shape of your hand, and it's kind of shaped to provide minimal effort in your cutting tasks. If you hold the knife like this and kind of hold your arm straight out, it just flows, okay? We don't have any funky Tanto stuff going on, no recurves, no big like Bowie shape blade. It just completely flows. Now he does make a version that is larger than this, and also because he is a custom maker, you could absolutely ask for a specific blade length. This is the 3-inch, but you could totally ask for 3.5 inches, 4 inches. You could ask for a longer blade and a shorter handle, or vice versa. Very flexible with the configuration of the Splinter because he's a custom maker. But this one is his typical flagship one. We do have the lanyard hole. We have the flared back end to really lock your hand in, and like I said, it's kind of a hybrid, right? Because it's a bushcraft style knife, but The blade is a little more EDC-esque, I guess, because it's full flat ground. It's very, very thin. All right. So you're kind of getting the best of all the worlds. You're getting the thin, full flat ground blade that is great for EDC tasks, and it's going to make your cutting and slicing, especially through packaging and cardboard, effortless. And then you also get the comfortable handle of a bushcraft blade. I would say if you wanted to use this strictly for an outdoors knife, maybe do a different grind, because something with 5 thou BTE is prone to probably rolling or maybe even chipping. If you were to try to baton with this thing, right, you might want a different type of grind. You might want to do some type of Scandivex, convex, something like that. But for everyday tasks, this was incredible. The most comfortable knife I think I've ever held in my life. Absolutely. And if the thickness isn't a problem for you, this is absolutely an EDC fixed blade that I can recommend. Very small and concealable, incredible to use, and super comfortable, both of them. Also, the jimping that he does, I will say, is some of the best I've ever used. Is very, very aggressive. Locks right in. Absolutely love it. And Kyle does some of the sharpest edges I think I've ever experienced in my life. A lot of knife makers have a niche or something that they pinpoint and focus on with their designs or with their heat treat or with their knives in general. And I think Kyle goes for ergonomics and sharpness. I mean, his knives are literally the sharpest knives I've ever experienced. You can cut rolling paper with them. And like I said, a month of use with one strop. It's actually crazy how he does this. It's unbelievable. So this is one of the best EDC fixed blades I've ever used. It is tiny, it is comfortable, it performs incredibly well. He has a number of steels that you can choose from: 10V, 4V, K390, Magnica, A2, the list goes on, Crewwear. You can just ask for whatever. There's nothing that I would change about this. There's nothing that I was longing for during the testing. It's just one of the best knives I've ever used. I want to do some size comparisons so you guys can get an idea of what to expect from these. So I will bring in another knife from Kyle. This is the Vulture. This is a design that I made with Kyle. These are his design. The Splinter is his design. I had no part of it. But the Vulture we did together, and a lot of people have them, so do a size comparison there. The Vulture is definitely longer with a way different handle shape. A slimmed out Coke bottle, but you have a massive finger choil there. And this is definitely more of an EDC knife. Fills the hand much more, so there's that. We will also bring in the Northern Knife Works Dart, because this is another small EDC fixed blade that I have tested, and this one I did help design, and a ton of people have these too, so. The Dart has a little bit of length on the Splinter, and obviously the thickness and stuff is way different. The Dart is pencil thin. Okay. We'll bring in something a little more universal here. Everyone knows the size of a Chris Reeves small Sebenza 31. And a lot of people have them. So the Splinter is actually shorter than a small Sebenza 31. So just to get an idea of how small this knife is, it's very concealable. By the way, they come with Kydex. Okay? So they just slip right in your pocket, but you can rig it to have a loop or whatever if you wish. Benchmade bug out. The bug out kind of eats the Splinter, and this is the full-size bug out, not the mini. So even a normal size pocket knife is bigger than the Splinter, much bigger. And then we'll do a few more EDC-sized fixed blades. This is the Duck Head Forge Slater. This is a design that I did with Dusty. These are much more comparable in size. Nearly the same. I think they really should be the same. Just about, yeah. We just have a different shape, obviously. Way more belly and more curve on the Splinter. But they're nearly identical. And lastly, we will compare to a Steve Kalari Custom Knives Steadfast, the 3-inch version, not the 3.5. So, even the small version of the Steadfast absolutely eats the Splinter. Look at the size difference. So, hopefully that provides clarity onto how small and pocketable the Splinter is. It's incredible. The only thing that is going to be eating up a little bit of your pocket space is the handle thickness. Other than that, it's very, very tiny. So, what is my conclusion? Because we've been talking for 21 minutes. First of all, this is one of the most recommended knives I could speak on, the Splinter from Kyle. It is just EDC knife perfection. It is extremely comfortable. I think if you played around with geometry, grind, etc., you could have a really, really nice outdoors knife. It is the most comfortable knife I think I've ever held in my life. I have had people with larger hands hold this, and they said the exact same thing. Josh from Knife Guy Mods, when he visited here from New York, had this in his hand, and he said it is literally one of the most comfortable blades. And Josh is he's a beefy boy. He has large hands. So, extremely comfortable. High performance. There is nothing that I would change about these. And Kyle's a really cool guy to work with. It's his job full time. When you have someone that lives for this, your customer service experience is generally pretty darn good. He loves to talk with his customers, come up with ideas, play around with grinds and steel and all of that stuff, so you have freedom to kind of create your own knife with him. This is just something that I absolutely loved testing, and these will always be in my collection because they are some of the nicest knives I've ever used. I definitely want to do some more real-time side-by-side cutting with these. I also want to sharpen them, but I didn't need to in the whole month, so I'm not just gonna sharpen them and take off material for no reason. I mean, there's just zero reason to sharpen a knife of this caliber. I can't bring myself to do it because I don't need it. So I can't report on the sharpening, but stropping took a couple of seconds. I'm genuinely blown away at the experience and the performance of these knives. I highly recommend his work. So Kyle, thank you so much for whipping these up and sending them in for testing. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this review, and as always, let me know if you have any questions, comments. Mother's number is down below. I will see you guys on the next video. I love you so much. We need to use your shit. Well, we have a lot of use your shits here, but we'll use this one. Go use your shit. Learn how to sharpen your knives. I will see you guys on the next video. I love you so much, fam. Take care.